So yes, welcome and thank you all for joining us. Oh yeah, if I'm looking up, it's because we have two screens. So it's like the computer screen. So I'm like looking at you, but it looks like I'm staring away at the ceiling. So we are reading off of a slideshow. Are we sharing our slideshow?
All right.
Okay, we're gonna try and share the slideshow. Okay, so yes, go ahead.
All right, so it is impossible to overestimate the centrality of the family in passing on the faith from one generation to the next.
So most of what I'm saying, or well, most of what's in the slideshow is from the Knights of Columbus Building the Domestic Church document that we found online, or Carl had shared with us Unleash the Gospel, which is a Diocese of Detroit document. So yeah, I just wanted to share, like, as an in-law of the Hartman family and looking at it from the outside, that it was evident early on that the gift of faith passed on through the generations is very strong, that the Hartmans do a good job of inculturating faith into family life, just in natural, ordinary ways. And yeah, that it's very like steadfast, and it's really neat actually now to see like the married cousins, all of you out there, sharing that faith to your children, like for us to be sharing with our children, and to be able to encourage each other in that now for the next generation.
All right, in his letter to families, Pope John Paul II, St. Paul John Paul II explained that the fathers of the church have spoken of the family as a domestic church. It is the primary social unit in which life in Christ is experienced and lived. Parents are the first to exhibit behaviors in their home that reflect gospel values by the way they love and forgive, by the way they witness and stand up for what is true and good, by the way they care for family members and the world around them, and by the way they show mercy to others and model social teachings. Living as the domestic church is extremely effective. Throughout all of history, there has been nothing more effective at evangelizing the culture than regular, everyday people choosing to live their faith at home and flowing out naturally as they interact in the public. Salvation history was changed forever by a family, the Holy Family.
The sacrament of matrimony.
Through this sacrament and their love for one another, a husband and wife make visible the love between Christ and his church. The triune God is a communion of love, and the family is its living reflection. How we act will dramatically impact how our children perceive God and other authority figures. We must accept the responsibility of raising our children in the faith. Through our roles as parents, we are the first ones to model for our children the love and mercy of God. To whom much is given, much will be required.
Gulp.
Good thing the sacrament pours out many graces. We will need to do the best we can with this huge responsibility.
Growing up, how did we receive our gift of faith? So the pattern in recent generations has been to delegate religious education entirely to the parish and school, assuming that by doing so, they fulfill their obligation to pass on the faith. Do you feel, oh boy, do you feel your sacramental prep through the school and parish was adequate? It's up or down? I don't really think so. Yeah. Did your parents or godparents supplement your preparation for the sacraments? You too. Did they continue to foster growth and understanding after receiving the sacrament? Yeah. yeah, kind of like the formal teaching at school and the parish. I mean, a lot of it, when we reflected, like we didn't necessarily remember what was said or how it was taught, or like, coloring books for coloring pages for the first communion, or memorizing the gifts of the Holy Spirit. So yeah, not largely effective, but the informal teaching of our parents through being through just living it every day did make a difference.
Family life is a daily liturgy of prayers, sacrifices, acts of love, services, forbearance, and forgiveness, all nourished and transformed by participation in the sacraments.
If you want to share some examples of ways that faith was lived out day to day in your home growing up. So did you grow up with grace before meals? Yeah, I think that one's pretty common. Any like daily devotionals? Did your parents have a habit of praying in the morning or in the evening with you? I did. My family didn't.
I found it would sometimes be cyclical. Like we'd go through cycles of doing the rosary in the evening for, I don't know, however many months, and then things would change or whatever, and kind of go in and out of different cycles. But there was elements of it throughout our childhood for sure.
So yeah, for me, when I look back on it, like my parents didn't grow up like praying in the morning or in the evenings. We did grace before meals, but that was kind of the only formal prayer. But I always remember my mom had saying, like, when my dad would say, like, why are you going out and helping people? Like, why? She was very much like a volunteer person, and it was for the hidden graces. And same with like, if we ever like lost something, it was like automatic, like, well, did you pray to St. Anthony? Like, he'll help you find it. So yeah, those were two of the ways that faith was lived out in my family. Does anybody else have kind of little things of examples of ways faith was lived out?
Yeah, I'd say our parents were really good at living out service of others, for no real gain for themselves other than just to help others. That was always, it's funny, like growing up as an adult, I'll see, I recognize it now, I guess, more than I did as a kid, because it was just part of our life all the time. And I didn't think any differently, but as an adult, you can see whether it's ourselves or other people, and hearing about their childhood, it's not necessarily common practice. I just always assumed it was, that people would always go out of their way to help and volunteer and do this and that, but that's not necessarily second nature for everyone. So I guess I came to learn that was an example of my parents' faith, living it out daily.
Mm-hmm. Nick or Ashley or Lauren or Derek, did you want to share?
I guess I know one thing that always stood out to me was that, well, it was not me, I didn't play so many sports, but the brothers that did, anytime that there was a soccer or tournament or anything like that, it was always, all right, which masses are available near, like especially the ones on Sunday or whatever. If a game's going to interfere, how are we getting to church? And well, that's one nice thing with the Catholic Church is there was lots of options, but that if they had to miss part of a game or even a full game, then that's what mom would do. It happened. It wasn't an option. And I know that one of the other things that we kind of did, I guess, growing up was always just celebrating the baptismal day. So then that would have been with Uncle Stephen A. Marg. Just that for that's how it was less about my birthday, but more of the baptismal day. It was an everyday kind of, or every year thing, I guess. But
yeah, I found that very, very neat. I didn't even know when my own baptismal day was until probably like last year. But yes, it's a nice way to like bring that into family life, the importance of being baptized. And yeah, I guess it really, when I got married, I realized how important like even just having like a church wedding was, and trying to like, be like, it's not just the norm for everyone, especially not like when I was at work or whatever. So being able to try and share with people when we can, or giving that witness was important for me.
anything else?
Keep going. So yes, after reflecting on your own upbringing, I mean, we didn't really give you too much time, but if you can think of some ways in which you're passing on the faith to your own children, some examples of things that you try to bring either from what you did growing up, or maybe as a contrast to what you didn't like growing up and what you want to do differently than your parents. For us, we like Sunday Mass. Really, COVID has forced us to focus on Mass in a completely different way at home, and highlighting how we do that, and how we try and like make it a special thing. Trying to, like, we tracked down some holy water, and we still were blessing ourselves with holy water and lighting a candle when we're not actually going to Mass. So that's really been kind of a blessing, to be doing Mass at home and focus in on how we can make that special for our family.
I'm nursing Eliza, and I don't have a cover handy, so I apologize that I'm not. You can't see my face, but so I converted last year. Eliza. And one of the things that really spoke to me during my, like, even just leading up to going through our CAA was the liturgical year, and finding ways in which we could be celebrating in our house. And so being home altogether with COVID, I feel like we've taken advantage of celebrating feast days. And that's something that really speaks to like my like some of my talents and my gifts, to be able to do that for my family. And it's a great opportunity for me to ask Derek to help explain some of those things to both me and to Theo, as we kind of dive deeper into what's happening in the church liturgical year, and how we can celebrate at our own home. And another thing I've also been really enjoying, which is totally different from my upbringing as an Anglican, like we didn't have any like anything in our house that really reflected our faith, other than like one small prayer that hung in our kitchen. And so I've been trying to find things that really speak to our aesthetic, but also can reflect our faith in our home, so that it's something that our children see all the time. Those are just a couple examples that that we're looking to do. I guess the other one is similar to what you were saying, Sandy, just trying to make Sunday special. We were talking about this just last week, about how important it is to us to try to make sure that we are that we're spending the time together, and that we are just making sure that everything about a Sunday is special. So we're pulling out the fancy dishes, and we're making a better meal, and we're trying to just make sure that it's something that our kids remember, that Sundays are a special day for us.
The only thing I was going to add to that was, like, I guess teaching Theo how to pray. I know Lauren had asked me once upon a time, like, how do you pray? And it's not really, couldn't really answer it very well. So just with Theo trying to, not that we've been great at it, but trying to pray before bed or pray some other time, just so he kind of learns how to pray, or kind of what it means, what it all entails. Because it's pretty hard to explain, but I guess easier to show in practice than explain with words.
And sometimes, like, even just some of the things that you do in mass, like when the gospel is read, like last night we were just explaining to Theo, like, what he had to do and what that meant. Like, no one had ever told me that. I just was doing it. So I learned something yesterday too.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, for us, like, what we've tried to do is Ashley has got this book called Liturgical Living, and it kind of goes through, not quite day by day, but pretty close, and goes through the different feast days of different saints and big feasts, Catholic feasts throughout the year. And it gives different ideas of activities or different things that you can do on that day to help engage the children, whether it's a special type of meal that points to kind of where the saint might be from, or different things like that, or different activities that sort of bring out the memory of certain saints and whatnot. And it gives an opportunity for the children to get engaged and want to be willing to kind of listen and learn about kind of the history of different things in the Catholic faith, because definitely with young children, it's very difficult to get them to just kind of sit and listen and try to teach them something. They want to go and play or do something. So this book that Ashley has been sort of a great help to get the kids to be able to kind of want to sit around and kind of be engaged in something as they learn about kind of the faith and whatnot. So that's just a little something we do.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. We'll keep going. So if you guys want to take a couple of minutes and just talk between yourselves, as if there's anything that you can think of that, like, you would hope to be doing or would want to be more intentional about in your family, then we can, it doesn't have to be like a big group chat, but yeah, if there's a way in which that you would want to help your family to grow closer and to focus more on the faith at home.
One thing for us that I think we want to be more intentional about is kind of having a more scheduled prayer time, or time to teach the kids about the faith, and make it more of like a habit. Like, we have a whole bunch of other activities, whether it's going to school or you have meal times at a certain part of the day, and we don't want our children to kind of get the impression that kind of just randomly mom and dad are saying, okay, let's do some prayers now, or let's let's learn something about the faith when they'd rather be playing or doing something else because it's not part of kind of a regular schedule. So I think being able to have a certain time set aside in the day, whether it's just 10 or 15 minutes, that kind of the children know that, okay, this is the time that we're setting aside specifically to God, because we set aside so many other things to do certain other things that if it really is important to us as parents and for the children to be able to see that, we need to have kind of a regular thing in place, and not just when it pops into our mind, oh, let's do this, that would be good. And the children are kind of distracted because they'd rather do something else.
That's a great idea. And actually, to build on that, something that we, Carl had shared this like book called 52 Sundays. I know Sandy has a copy, and it has like, I don't know, like 4 pages of like some of all the things you could do that Sunday. And one of the things that Derek and I were talking about is that there's quite a bit of things that it suggests that you could be doing. So we decided that together as a family with Saturday night dinner, we would read the next day's gospel to the family during or before dinner, so that we would be listening for it the next day in Mass. Just to try to build some intention, like some of that into our day. But we completely agree that it's so important to have like something that it's expected that it's going to happen, so it doesn't, like you said, take away from playtime or something like that, and then become a negative thing from your child's perspective.
The catechizing children has little effect if parents themselves are not living as disciples of Christ.
A personal relationship with Jesus is a must.
Many parents have not been evangelized or well catechized themselves. Just as an airline safety video tells you to put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others, so parents need to have a living relationship with Jesus to learn the faith themselves in order to hand it on effectively to their children.
These are more like rhetorical. We don't need you to answer them out loud, but have you chosen the faith for yourself? Do you make time for personal prayer every day? I am definitely cyclical in that, and it's a habit, and then you fall in and out of it. But and stage of life, depending on, you know, newborn versus not. But we are all called to go deeper, to receive God's love, and to get to know Him through Scripture and silence. Do you have the desire to know God more intimately? Because He says, for everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened.
Building the domestic church. Sacrificial love and gift of self, as exemplified by Christ, must govern all aspects of family life. Utmost priority is given to Sunday Mass and daily prayer. Decisions about activities and finances need to be made according to the Lordship of Christ in our families. Spouses talk freely to each other and their children about the Lord. The faith is encultured through various family traditions and celebrations. It is a shared way of life that is marked by a lived relationship with Jesus, a quest for holiness, and a missionary focus.
Amid all the pressures to prepare our children for success in life, we need to realize there is no greater gift we can give than a relationship with Jesus and His church, which endures throughout eternity.
I bless you, my child.
We must be intentional and explicitly share with our children why you feel your faith is important to you and that you wish to bless them with this gift. Because just because won't suffice for them. I mean, really, they ask why like crazy. And just because has never worked for us. So, and it's important for them to hear our own personal reasons why it's important for us. So throughout the Old Testament specifically, there's been many examples of blessings. Isaac blesses Jacob, and then Numbers, the passage that Carl was talking about, and that we'll hear in the song coming up, the Lord blessing Aaron and his family. And it's not like, just as we ask God to bless our food before we eat, and like as we bless ourselves as we enter and exit the church with holy water, at least before COVID, or saying God bless you to someone when they sneeze. It's not that strange or far-fetched to think that we should be asking for blessing from our parents and be able to bless our children. So that's what we'll kind of be going into with Carl in the next session, the importance of asking for and receiving blessings. So he'll be asking us to actually ask your own parents for a blessing of your marriage. And then he'll be asking us to pray with our children to be able to bless them and affirm them, to share the love of Christ with them, and to help them to be docile to the promptings of God's voice in their lives. So we're going to be kicked off here in a couple seconds, but there's a really cute story. It's called The Story of the Blessing Stone. And in it, this is like a line that's repeated. So a parent saying to the child, "You are the reflection of the face of God. The world is a brighter place because of you. I bless you, my child," kind of thing. So I'm not sure what Carl has for that specific, what he's going to ask of us, but that's one that we liked. So we're going to go back to the main room.